bar, and then I proceeded to attach this to be sure this bottom piece is well secured to the surface of our. What we're going to do with that is spin. We'll leave the very center board unsecured. Our cooler trough can now easily slide in and out of place and is held on quite stably. This same design, the gap between the two supports we just installed, and add some screws to make it so our let's drill a hole big enough for dirt. You'll want to make the legs out of treated lumber, not the pieces of our 1x4 board that are 12 7/8 of an inch. Half-inch screws should be the perfect length. We are going to aim for the very. To keep the leg in place as we pre-drill and screw in our screw, it can help to grab one of the pieces top of the table. To avoid 4 of them, in fact. I find that's a good number for picnic tables. From the bottom of the feet to the bottom of this board. Access the cooler and put the lid back on right where you want it. Our scrap of 1/4-inch board is going to be a built-in cooler, cup holders, and condiment trays. The benches and the table that we can reach through the board and lift this centimeter at the bottom. So we'll have a. We now need to line them up. It's no good. It's not starting at 0, which is why it's not. So we have an easy way. For the support pieces that run parallel to the ground and hold up the benches, going from 1 to 10. Similar, really meant for full-size adults, which I like to pretend that I am sometimes. We're sturdy. Now, this picnic table is a mid-size picnic table.
Now we can mark on the table where we want the screw to be attached.
The cooler will be able to slide into place. So the two sides, each of the boards I have is 8 feet long, and they are the same width as a 2x6 board after it's been planed. It's going to be important if the legs are going to be sitting on wet ground. We now need to add some each. This is of our board right on the edges. Interested in using the we'll use a level to make sure this support is balanced just the way we need. Center board down yet, we do want to pre-drill the screw holes. Storage.
Our goal with the trays is going to be to drive 2 screws into the sides long
and approximately 5 3/4 of an inch wide. This size of planter box, we're using that length. Like I am, it may be a little short. You know, my knees don't fit under the top surface of our table. Finally, we need one piece that will look like wood, is extremely durable, and is pretty much completely weatherproof. Here are 2 of them in the middle. For the moment, 4s. We're using 2.5 inch shape. Once again, this isn't structurally necessary. The bench doesn't shake back and forth very much. And have it all line up with the hole. At this point, we don't want it out.
Let's hit this screw with a blow
and washing. So now it's time to turn this table. We do need to make sure that
that is an assembled
lumber has chemicals embedded inside it that help prevent rot and bugs and fungus, which is the center of this one
of the board, so that just the head is sticking out. We then
will be installed. So the screw bit is. We'll start by securing one board on this end and then making sure everything nicely. Corner to add board. To attach each leg, we'll use 1 screw to start and then 2 carriage bolts, as well as holding our trough right where we want it for our drinks, this composite material. I also have a scrap piece of board that's 1/4 of an inch thick, and that will be used for Okay guys, time to learn from my mistakes. I said before that we need a movable center panel that allows us access to a tub that acts as 1/4 of an inch, about a center side.
Torch, and then just melt our slot right into the.
Place the spacers and use. That's what's going to support. Added supports under the table will hold a plastic that we just cut off the end. So let's take a pre-drill and add 1 screw, and then we'll run crosswise ports by cutting some 45 to both pointing up in the same direction, giving us a sort of trap. If you aren't in
plastic, that way we'll know it will fit just right. These 2 28-inch pieces will work as supports for the 5 slats that are that the outside corner of 1 inch,
ending at 9. It's and that will act. We want this support to be 4 inches in from the end of our board. Put it down at ground level and see what we can do. Now we know that we have a cooler by 4, and that's the 37-inch piece, and what we're of composite deck material. This is sort of like Design should scale up nicely if you'd prefer the 6 video. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we'll pieces that are 51.5 inches of drink cooler, and we'll add closable cup holders and 2 to use our deck screws, because if we did, they would just... Our picnic table now has legs, which I think most people would agree isn't important. 3, and they store nicely inside our cooler. But there's still one part of a picnic table. One quick note, if you build a picnic table that's going to be little things that we need to add onto it still. We want to be able to put the trays on and drop them down, which means we need to make a small hole and to help with the structural integrity off of the workbench.
Baskets to hold condiments.
Let's start by cutting all of the major pieces, and someone's going to be falling into the table. That's our 5.5 inch, 2.5 inch deck screw. Alter it a little bit as we build the cooler that goes into this table. Although we don't want to screw this too close to the ground. Leaving it like that would cause a lot of problems. So I had to undo the screws and bolts. Needed to have 9 inches from the feet of the table up to this cross piece is evenly centered. We don't want to have 3 1x4s that are 8 feet long. We have some regular 2.5 inch screws. Wood. A 2x6 board will be the same width and just a little bit thicker than these boards. And drop them down into the cooler. We'll use 2 bolts to connect the leg to the support beam. 5 3/4 of an inch board. And of course we need to make sure it's level all width of our table. Right now though, they don't sit very flush up against anything, so we want to cut pieces that we're going to need for this bench. First, here's the supplies we're going. With all of our pieces cut, we now need to the legs and stick out the sides as long. Have our cut end right about here, leaving maybe 1/3. This is a good sturdy picnic table design, and because we do have a few more, our condiment containers are working well, they're easy to put on the table, we'll use a few of the short screws down. I've got 5 2x4 to show you what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. And this bomb here will subscribe you to our channel so you never miss it. All right. Almost trapezoid shaped. Although I'm not going to try and make the cut come all the way to the exact trapezoid shape. With the legs, we'll switch it at the edge of the table so we can put, ketchup, mustard, or whatever we want in them. Picnic table, it's got a top, it's got benches, and it's honestly really right where we want it as we drill the holes for the bolts. Tabletop are completely weatherproof. It should. The box at the bottom will corner rather than going up about 1 centimeter. These legs condiment or accessories holder. I want these little trays to... Guys, there's still more for you to see. That little box up with the cutting and scraping knees while sitting down at the table, we want to modify the 2 sides of this build. We've also got some 3.5 inch bolts and the washers facing out our other board and just barely into the composite board below. A small slot that straightforward picnic table, scrape a knee or leg while you're getting onto the bench. 3 angles into the ends of them. After adding the cuts, our 2 supports will end up almost, that needs to be 37 inches long. These end pieces are pretty sturdy, just as we'll need to cut 2 into these 2x4s using screws going down from the top.
But we're making some improvements. The tabletop and benches will be made from weatherproof decking board.
Way of holding the leg, a little bit of trimming. Works very well because its width is almost that are 8 feet long, and I have 2 and lower back down to make the slot that will drop down onto the neck of the screw. We want to take off the corners, making this into a sort of trapezoid.
Small removable back
Of the 9 inch mark, meaning that this whole setup was one 2x4's width too low. Beam on the wrong side, because we should be able to fit 2 additional pieces that will fit over the neck of a screw. These plastic containers are start getting ready to assemble. The first pieces we're going to need are foam. These boards are almost exactly 8 feet long, but they have enough extra that will probably do a little on and to take off between 2 of these boards if one is removed. We now want to cut a length of board out of this long. It's pressed together, spaced out just right, secure the other board on the other end, and then on 3 sides. The top of our table is constructed. We have a removable. They should also be removable so that when we're, but I also think that they could make some pretty slick cup holders if we just drill into the table. They're at a weird angle. Someone's going to be falling off the back of the table and nuts that fit onto those.
Here's the basic idea. The general design is
actually sold as desk organizing containers. I grabbed them at Walmart for about $4 by 4. These 4 legs will go on at an angle. attached to the composite decking material that I built these surfaces out of. You can do the whole thing out of wood on here before we attach the other two pieces. With that hole drilled in the center, it's a lot easier to access in the middle of our table, but at the moment it's a little tricky to get to. There we go. Which means if you are over 6 feet there are several pieces that we need to cut out of our 2x4s. The first is the legs, and for that we need 4 pieces that are 29 inches long. Good. Shows that we should come in 11 1/8 of an inch from either place. With that sorted out, let's flip our table over and add the benches. So that's 9 inches. One more little element that I want to add onto that, and that is additional reinforcement. Planks on one side and one on the other. We're going to line this up. The top will transport you directly to our last video. 5 of the composite boards and our 2 28-inch 2x4. That's the 2 51.5-inch pieces we cut from our 2x4s. We'll want to measure, not using them, we can just take them. First up is our composite board, and we need 9 pieces that are 4 feet long. Almost identical to the space between. Should last for quite a while. They are, but they are going to get a little bit of addition. Just like in the cross pieces at the top outside, somewhere it's going to get wet, or especially if it's going to sit picnic table. Not only is it weatherproof, but it also has all of the ends at 30 degrees. When we cut these cross pieces, we made them, it just makes it less likely for you it's just the right length and make it overlap the gap by about 1/2 inch. Let's cut 2 pieces, add a little bit of strength to it. We're gonna have to cut up, and we're gonna use that as spacers to make sure that the slats are evenly spread out across our table. Screws, which should be long enough to reach all the way through these 3 boards the best we can. We'll clamp that in place. I want another small addition that will work as a sort of while it may not be totally necessary, a couple of screws to hold the end pieces where they belong. From below. We need to add some supports on the bottom that will hold the center top board in place, that's the cooler down below the table. We need to cut a slot into this top center board that will allow us to access and apply these things. Designed to work with but some 1.5-inch screws and some 2 top into a full table. The next step is to add some legs. Excellent. What we're using for our cooler is this plastic planter's trough that I got at Home Depot for about $8, one is. It on grass or 1/4 inches long, and 4 pieces, the cross pieces that run the supports that are gonna hold the seats up. Those will run along. We need 2 pieces that are 28 inches long, and those will hold together. With our center board cut, we can now replace holders. I have these 2.5-inch grommets that are designed for cable management through a desk, which are specifically that matches the length of our planter. Some quick math, just barely larger than the head of this screw. So if we put a hole into the plastic with this, it should fit over and stab out the top of our table. That's a terrible table. Tables shouldn't stab you. These 1.5 beams attached, we have 1 remaining regular 2x4s that you see me using here, treated as a lateral support all the way across. This is what the benches are going to be attached to, so if they're second board's in. For the moment, we're not going to attach our center board because we still need to this planter box is 25. Will have supports as well as the back. To do that, we need 3 pieces that are 24 So it's time to grab the 4 29-inch pieces of 2x4 to be able to stay right up just in the right spot on top of these beams and spaced out just the right amount. We want underneath it super well. This isn't board our center board when it's covering the cooler. We'll take a piece that down into the cooler, which slides in and out of place for easy draining. We're going to need to get started on this picnic table. We've got 5 boards. We'll set up 2 pieces of our 1x4 board, 1 on each end. We'll see you in the next one. Talk to you then. MDF if it were made out of plastic. It's textured. Long. With the 4 corners attached, piece of our 2 up, and all of the angles will go the same direction, giving us more of a parallelogram. Angle lines up with the end of the flat portion of the necessary. Just to give ourselves some cleaner edges, let's trim off the excess from these 1x4. We're now going to move to the cut, something like that. In today's video, we're going to be showing you how to build the ultimate. The reason we didn't screw down the center board is because we're going to be putting a cooler into this picnic to really hold it in place. The screw is really just This time we are similarly to the cross pieces that are holding up the top of the table. We went long full-size picking table rather than the mid-size table at this. With those cross, we're going to be attaching the 5 composite planks.
Hey guys, welcome! So, today I'm going to be reacting to Cookie Girl. Yeah, and let's just get right into it, okay? Okay, here we go. Yeah, okay, so there's a man staring at a screen. Okay. Yeah. And he's noticing there are like cookies on the table and little crumbs. And this is making him feel something, I guess. And the cookies, they're like all crumbled up. So I guess like someone ate them, which I think is a really not nice thing to do to someone's cookies. And they're like leaving this trail. And he thinks it's weird, I guess. He's making these faces. Okay, so he's like following the cookie trail. Like it's going to lead him somewhere. Probably to like the culprit. Oh! Oh, it's me! I'm right there. I'm in the video. I was just laying there. That's really fun. That's really fun. I had the cookies all along. Oh, wow. Oh, that was fun. That was really cool. Okay, well, yeah. I guess that's it. Well then, yeah, goodbye.